Good afternoon and welcome to the Institute of Workplace and Facilities Management webinar. Today, Wednesday, the 16th of March, midday in the UK. I can see our attendees are joining us rapidly, which is terrific to see. And so we will get started, if that's okay for everybody. So our purpose today is to share thoughts and experiences relating to customer journey mapping in FM as we launch the latest guidance note from the Customer Experience Working Group. My name is Jeff Greatley. I am your host and I will be setting the scene and wrapping up at the close. I've worked in FM for more than 25 years, and throughout that time, customer service, customer experience, and employee experience have been at the heart of my work. They are imperatives for me. Our team today are part of the IWFM Customer Experience Working Group, a group which has been together now for almost 2 years. We comprise Bianca Angelico, Gareth Durbridge, Gordon Parker, Laurent Philippe Vacama, better known to us as LP. So this webinar is all about the customer journey, in particular, mapping the customer journey to better understand and improve the customer experience. And we're here to launch the latest IWF CX guidance note. We'll be putting the customer at the forefront today, at the heart of our thinking, in order to help and enable individuals and organizations to better fulfill their organizational goals. This is the third guide and webinar from the CX working group, the previous ones having focused on people management and CX measurement. And through the last 2 years, the group have shared experiences, researched and developed tools and resources, culminating in our 3 guides. We aim to support IWFM's vision to enable people to transform organizations and their performance, and we strive to help fulfill IWFM's strategic goal to be the first choice destination for workplace and FM research, information and debate. With the publication and launch of our guide today, we now look forward to the next phase of our working group, further developing our support for the membership of the Institute. So, having set the scene, without further ado, our webinar journey today comprises 3 polls to enable you all to directly participate, 2 case studies, and 1 outstanding panel of customer experience experts. We'll be concluding with your questions, so please utilize the Q&A facility on your Zoom screen to send questions to our panel. And please do stay with us to the close today. We have the IWFM audience survey for you to complete, and we value your feedback to help us improve the future webinar customer experience. So thank you. Now, it's my pleasure to hand over to my working group colleague, our panel moderator, Gordon Parker.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Jeff. So for all of you who have not had the opportunity to read the guide yet, one of the things that I hope you get out of the discussion today is that this is an attempt to help you to see life from the customer point of view. So although you may in the past have been looking at specifications and looking at standards and looking at how you can understand the customer from the operations point of view, what this session will do is it will give you an insight into thinking about how services are provided from the customer perspective. And you'll read the guide, and when you read the guide, you'll see some of the detail associated with the process. But today, what we're trying to do is to use the panel's experience and also to stimulate your imagination with our polls to think about the relationship between the customer and the services that you provide in your normal day. So first of all, if I can introduce you to the panel who will be doing most of the talking, my job is really just to facilitate between their world of wisdom and the polls. So first of all, Bianca, we had a very quick introduction before. She's the person that heads up Enverve since May 2021. She appreciates that a thriving workplace is all about happy guests and employees. And she's very experienced in facilities management, in particular the guest services sector, and is particularly interested in building management and occupant experience amenities. Our second panelist is Gareth Durbridge, who is a senior customer experience professional with key strengths, including strategic management of customer experience. He's going to give us a case study today, the first case study we see. Bianca, who you've just had your first intro to, will also do a case study later. What you'll also see as part of those case studies is that we are not trying in the guide to make you follow a rigorous singular pattern. What we're trying to do is to get you to think about the customer, and we're providing tools that will help you to capture that. So I hope you see that in the session today. Gareth is a member of the Customer Experience Professional Association and achieved his CCXP in April 2019. LP, Laurent Philippe, is our third panelist today. His initial experience in this area was in five-star hotels in France and in the UK. And he moved on to facilities management services to manage catering, hospitality, cleaning, and security for large contracts, including organizations such as Goldman Sachs, Credit Suisse, and others. One of the things that LP brings to this is a very clear enthusiasm, which I'm sure you'll see today, to thinking about life from the customer perspective. And I hope very much that we can get some pearls of wisdom from him today. So first of all, then, if we can move on and do the first poll, please, Jeff. That's an interesting thought. One of the things that you'll see is that we do have some video guides to the poll itself. That was clicked up very quickly there. Can we go back and look at that again, Jeff? The three panelists have in fact provided what we could describe as knowledge bite videos. So when you do get a chance to see this guide, you'll see it's a little bit different from things done by the IWFM before, and possibly things that you may have seen from other organizations. So you'll not only see the text, you'll also see the knowledge bites presented by the panel. So right, on to first poll. We would like you to choose from A to D. How important is customer experience in your organization? So if you'd like to click one of those, please.
Oh, interesting.
That's good.
Yes, it's interesting to see that the audience do think that the customer experience is very important. It's also interesting to see that there is nobody who doesn't think it is important at all, which means you're probably on the spending your time in the right way by being on this in this discussion. So thinking about that, then let's see if we can get some feedback from the panel. So Gareth, if I come to you first of all, obviously the audience are thinking that it's important to understand about the customer journey. Could you perhaps give us a little bit of insight into how the guide templates are used, and in particular how people might use them and what they might need to focus on when using them?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Gordon. So I think really great results. It's pleasing to see that most organisations are thinking about customer experience as being a part of their everyday operations, and it's critical, really. And I think some of the ways that this guide is going to be able to support individuals with looking into that even deeper is using the template and mapping out various parts of customer journeys. Some of the key things I think are important areas that will be useful to the users will be things like personas, which we'll come on to a little bit later on, but this is about who the individual is that we're mapping the journey around, so choosing who the customer is, because there's obviously lots of different customers who we might interact with that we would like to consider as customers. But in order to use the template, really, we need to define which customer, so we call them personas. Also looking at moments of truth, which I know LP is very passionate about, and will hopefully talk to us a little bit later on about, but moments of truth will be quite critical. These are kind of the key moments along a customer's journey where they make critical decisions about whether to remain loyal to a business or organization, or to move away. And also I think the 4-phase breakdown, so the way that we've looked at our customer journey template, the map template, is by breaking it down into 4 phases, which is the preparation phase, the engagement phase, service delivery, and then post-engagement. And again, when Bianca and I are talking through our case studies later, we'll reference them. And finally, for me, I think the needs, wants, and expectations of the persona that we're mapping around is quite critical, because we need to understand that in order to know how to map out the customer journey. So for me, these are quite important areas which I think the users will find useful.
Thank you, Gareth. Bianca, if I could come to you next. One of the things that we've mentioned is that this guide has got videos in it. Could you possibly tell us why the group did the videos and a little bit about them?
Yeah, sure. So we all know, and also in experience and creating experiences, people learn in different ways and experience stuff in different ways. So we wanted to bring that to this guide, and doing that was bringing bite-sized videos. So they're short, they're snappy. It's another way of taking the words that are in the guide and bringing them to life and helping you through using the template, but also understanding all the different things that we talk about, like Gareth's talk about moments of truth, the different personas, and we kind of do videos that really touch on each of those. So they're short, snappy, and hopefully if you are a visual person, it will work really well for you. If you're somebody that likes to read, you got the words. So it's kind of there for everyone. We wanted to bring everyone on the journey. So we really thought about all of you reading this guide, and hopefully this brings it to life even more for you.
Thanks, Bianca. LP, I would just like to ask you, if everybody on this session today is interested in understanding about the customer journey, understanding life from the customer's point of view, could you possibly give some insight into how you see the customer journey and perhaps the different types of customers?
Hi, good afternoon all. Good question, Gordon. I think within each building there is a different journey, and I think this is what we as a team people need to look at. Obviously, there is different access within the building. It could be through the car park. It should be through the main entrance, or at the back of the building. And it's very important to identify this journey. What I recommend is to actually visual the journey and to walk the journey on a daily basis, to ensuring that everything is working, into ensuring that the maintenance is up to speed, the health and safety aspect of it, as well as the accessibility to this journey, because not everybody will have the same journey. An executive might just park his car downstairs, go straight into his office. An employee will go through the main door. A subcontractor will probably use the back door of the building. So each of these journey needs to be reviewed, making sure that everything, as I said earlier on, is in place, and we can accommodate everybody coming into the building, however the person is. I think it's very important to consider any people coming through the building as important as an exec coming to his office, and that is critical in the customer journey, and that needs to be reviewed, shared with the team, briefing, debriefing, and that really help that customer journey through each of your building.
Okay, thanks, LP. Can we move on to our next slide, Jeff? So if you have any questions that you'd like to raise with our panel, please feel free to use the question facility down at the bottom under Q&A. We'll do our best to answer them at the end. Jeff will talk us through the questions we've had. If we can't answer them today, we will do our best to answer them in the next week. If you have any specific questions for specific guests, please feel free to ask them. Let's move on, Jeff. So we're on to our case study now. I guess we're going to have the question session number 2 after this. So first of all, can I allow Gareth time to talk through case study number 1, please?
Thanks, Gordon. Okay, we'll move on to the first slide then. So this is looking at our template that you'll see in the guide. So if for those of you that haven't yet had the opportunity to see the guide, once you do have that opportunity, you'll see the example template that we've got here on the screen. And I'll just talk to you a little bit about some of the components of this template. So you'll see at the top there what journey we are mapping out. So you can see here that the journey that we're mapping out is a retail store opening or a customer onboarding. So if you imagine that we are the center management team, or we're part of the center management team, and the journey that we're looking at is when we have a new retailer open in our shopping center in a new unit, and it's a launch of a new business. And what does that look like? And then we mentioned earlier about personas, and there's lots of different personas in a shopping center. We can think about our natural personas might be things like the consumer, the members of the public, the visitors to the space, but also those store managers who are the tenants or occupiers of the units that we look after. So we're going to map this particular example around the persona of a retail store manager. So the journey that we're looking at is the opening of a new retailer, and the persona for this journey is a retail store manager. That's who our customer is. And we're going to put this journey, we're going to put the retail store manager at the heart of this journey. It's their onboarding, it's their welcome to this to the shopping center. And then you'll see at the top there, we've got sort of a picture that depicts a visual element of what a retail store manager is in our minds. And next to that is what their needs and wants are. So we've determined that the customer in this example is the retail store manager. What are their needs and wants if they're opening a brand new unit in a shopping center? So some of the things might be for needs, for example, these are things that they absolutely need, will be sort of to understand the process maybe for the deliveries that they're going to have, and how they get access to those deliveries arriving at the shopping center. All the different utility points. So they've arrived perhaps on their first day into the unit, they need to know where all the utility points are, things like lighting and heating, air conditioning, electrical points, gas, water, all of these things. Operational considerations, what's the emergency procedure of the shopping centre? What's the waste management policy, and how do they conduct their waste disposal? Any health and safety compliance that they need to consider. All of these things are needs of the store manager. Wants will be things like maybe they'd want to understand about car parking for me and my staff, or awareness of the centre security and cleanliness standards, the wider standards that the shopping centre kind of adhere to. And is there perhaps an induction for my team of what the shopping centre is offering and public facilities are? That might be a want for the retail store manager. And then to the right of that, we've got what the expectations are of this individual. So the expectations, again, at the top right there, are things like the fit out team. Have they completed on time? Will the unit be clean and tidy for handing over to me? What kind of supports should I expect from the centre management team in the lead up to our launch day? So that kind of sets out the top areas there of the diagram in front of you of our template. And then we talked about earlier the 4 phases. So the first phase that we've got is our preparation phase. So this is where we're now thinking about the different elements of this customer's journey through to launching their store. So the preparation in this example is perhaps the pre-welcome, we might call it that. So the store manager, the retail store manager, hasn't yet arrived at the shopping centre, and we're preparing for his or her arrival. And what does that pre-welcome look like? Has the centre management team made contact with the retail store manager and introduced themselves? Have we provided directions with how to get to the shopping centre? Perhaps we're assuming the retail store manager knows how to get to our shopping centre. Maybe they don't, so we need to think about that. Any health and safety risk assessments that might need to be reviewed. Also, maybe we could provide in advance the emergency escalation and key contact details for the centre management team, and also maybe share the deliveries in process and offer any support for any imminent deliveries that are perhaps due to arrive. So this would be the first phase, if you like, the preparation phase. We'll move on to phase number 2, which is engagement. So this is the actual welcome or the actual arrival of the store manager to the shopping centre. And what kind of things might they be looking for from us, the centre management team? So perhaps the centre manager would meet and greet the new store manager in person, and then facilitate some introductions to other members of the centre management team. Perhaps there's a marketing manager on site, maybe an operations, facilities, technical kind of engineering manager as well, security, housekeeping, all of these other key stakeholders that make up a shopping centre's management team, and we facilitate introducing the new store manager to each of those. Perhaps we do a tour of the site, so we walk the shopping centre with the new retail store manager to show him and her around the site. Perhaps there's a centre handbook with all operational elements involved in there that we can share with the store manager. And I would suggest that we think about scheduling ongoing periodic meetings as well. So all of the things that you think would be important to the store manager, we should put in here on their first arrival, what's important to them on day one that they're arriving at your shopping centre. And then we move into the third phase, which is the service delivery. So in this example, this would be the lead up to the store launch. So our launch day is in maybe a week or two's time, and we're leading up towards that. So what kind of things do we think the retail store manager is thinking about in this week or two before the opening of their store? And it'll be things like the arrival of their retail team, of their team who are going to be working in this store from that point forward, their induction to the site, and perhaps potentially a tour of the site as well, all the deliveries that need to arrive and the stock merchandised onto the shop floor, any marketing campaigns, social media posts or website posts, have they been deployed that need to be deployed, and what have we as a centre management team done to support those as well? Could we have maybe some enhanced security and housekeeping patrols to support with all the cleanliness and the risks around that with a new store sort of being created? Advanced waste clearance, any ad hoc queries that perhaps come from the public around the launch, and perhaps maybe we engage with the store manager around some typical FAQs that we should expect to be able to respond to the public with. And then, of course, we've got launch day on the service delivery here, which would be things like maybe we would want to do a centre manager check-in with the store manager on their launch day, the centre team to perhaps prioritise the new store as a high demand on launch day, and offer heightened accessibility and availability as well for the store manager. So that's kind of the service delivery in the week or so leading up to launch day and launch day itself. And then the final phase is our post-engagement. So this is after the launch day, perhaps maybe a week or so after launch day. Maybe we would engage with the store manager and get some two-way feedback. Is there any lessons that we can learn from their experience? Is there things that we could have done differently? Are there things that we could have improved on? And critically, are there things that actually the retail store manager thought, wow, that was brilliant, and we shouldn't change, and we should keep it in there and maintain doing it, because it's a great way of engaging with them and supporting with them through the previous phases. And then we should create a plan around improvement opportunities that we get from that, and as well, of course, continue with our scheduled ongoing meetings with the store manager. So that's kind of how we would map out in our example here the template of a store manager opening a new retail unit within a shopping centre. And that's my example for you there today. Thanks, Gordon.
Great, thanks very much, Gareth. So it's interesting to see that there's a format laid out there. The particular example that you have is of a centre manager. When you see our second case study, you'll see a different approach. It's more circular rather than left to right. But the emphasis of the guide is to make sure that you're thinking about the personas, make sure you're thinking about stages such as preparation, engagement, service delivery, and post-engagement. And if you happen to be in a production environment or an office environment, as LP was talking about earlier, or indeed a centre manager, or indeed a different type of business altogether, then this guide should still enable you to think about life from the customer's point of view. So if we move on to the next slide. So we would still like to hear some more about the questions that you may have for us, for the panelists. So please type in your questions in the Q&A function. And remember, if you want to ask a specific guest a specific question, please feel free to do that. So we're on to our next poll, I believe. So poll 2. how do you currently manage and understand the customer experience journey in your organization? So do you not? Review customer feedback and complaints. That's the first level. Okay, I occasionally walk the journey a customer might take. LP was advocating that. And then the last one is that my team, I regularly assess the customer journey, put myself in the shoes of the customer, and my team regularly come together to review the customer journey in detail to seek improvements. So we don't just plan it out and think about it. We actually come back and look at it in detail. Again, as LP was talking about, actually doing it in real life. So what have we got on poll 2 then, please?
How many people do we think are going to say we don't? What percentage?
We thought none, didn't we? We
Yeah,
thought
we did.
that
We were
nobody would.
thinking this. Yeah.
Mm.
It'd be interesting.
Well, we don't know. Just tell the truth. Well done for those people who said we don't.
Interesting.
Well done. Honestly, well, that's interesting because there is a different level of maturity, I suspect, that you'll be seeing between this top level, which is perhaps not much thinking about the customer point of view, through to this much more rigorous approach at the bottom. So the guide is intended to be able to help whatever level of maturity you're currently at. So should we just move on then, Jeff, if we could? So when we've been talking about the feedback that we've got from the polls, it seems that we've got people with different levels of maturity in their current roles. So it's interesting to see that different arrangement. If I could possibly ask the panel to help me out by thinking through and responding to some of that. So LP, if I talk to you first, could you give us a little bit of insight into the customer feedback side about how the customer feedback helps?
I think it's very important to obviously to listen to our customer and understanding their experience of our building when they've been into it, but which really help us, will help the team. But I do essentially think that we need to be, as any FM provider, needs to be very proactive in terms of that customer journey. And obviously the guide will help that. The feedback is great, but I'm a firm believer that by having a proactive approach, by developing the team, by sharing best practice as what's happening, not necessarily within our building, but elsewhere, we always learn from other organization, how they do it, and we shouldn't be ashamed to look outside of the business. Training, obviously, with the team, explaining the importance of the customer service through different exercise. We were earlier on talking about walking the customer journey. I think it is crucial for everybody to do this as often as possible, and to anticipate the customer needs. What do we need to do, or the step that we need to take to ensure that our building will be the best one that they're going to be seeing today? How do we? So there's a visual aspect, there's a smell, there's a lot of other things which I will probably talk later on in part of the moment of truth. But it is very important to really think outside of the box. I mean, there's in a 5-star world, for instance, this is something that the team is dedicated to, and they do that every day. And there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to do this in the FM industry. We need to think out of the box. We need to look outside. How can, as a person, we all love a good customer service. We all love a good customer journey. So we should be able to do that for all our clients who comes into our building. So yes, training, personal development, looking outside, best in class, and be on top of the trend, knowing what's happening in the FM, knowing what clients want, likes and dislikes, trying to, if it's a repetitive client coming into your building, let's try to understand what the likes and the dislike of that person. So really, it's a work. It's an upstream work that needs to be done by any team. But I think it should also come naturally. We need to be able to accommodate all our clients and naturally, and you know, it doesn't have to be a tense exercise. It's just that it's a repetition every day. It's communication, it's briefing, debriefing. So that's my understanding, and this is what I've you know, I live that customer journey most of my career.
Great, thanks, LP. Bianca and Gareth, I'd like to try and get a bit of insight from you at this point. I am getting prompted that we need to be brief in these comments, so I apologize if it seems like I'm rushing you a little bit. Bianca, it was interesting to see the lower part of the survey. We're talking about walking in the shoes of the customers. What's that all about?
That is all about really, how do they experience? What are they experiencing through that journey? But I also believe you've got to walk in their shoes, but you've also got to ask those that are providing the service, what are their challenges? What are their pain points? Because it's all well that we can say that there's a challenge, but if we don't kind of go further deeper and find out from those that are delivering, I always ask my team, what is your challenges? What is holding up? What is creating a queue? How can we reduce that? What is
Bianca, I think you might have frozen
delivering
there.
it?
Oh, you come back again. So we didn't hear the last bit there, Bianca. Do apologize for that.
Oh, sorry.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask Gareth a relatively quick question?
Yeah.
Gareth, at the top of the poll, we had a question which indicated that people, a statement that said people may not do this thinking about the customer at all.
Mm-hmm.
Are there really any risks about not just specifying something and forgetting the customer and getting on with it and doing it to a set standard?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, the organizations spend a lot of money in acquiring new customers all of the time. And I think our job really is to then think about how we retain those customers. And what's important is that we evolve with the customer along the way. So if we fail to think about what the customer's needs and wants are, then we are always risking ourselves of losing the customer, and the customer will potentially move over to an organization, one of our competitors, where they do think about what the customer's needs and wants are, and meet those expectations and exceed them. So I think there is a lot of risk around that. And as we know, it costs businesses and organizations more money to acquire new customers all the time than it does to retain customers. And really, it's about just showing good values and listening to the customer, identifying trends in customer feedback. Even if it is the case that we just capture customer feedback only, and that's the limit that the organization offers, there's lots of things that we can do with that. You know, how do we listen to that feedback? Do we separate out inquiries from complaints, from praise? And do we think about how each of those could be used differently? Praise, obviously telling us what we're doing great and we shouldn't change. Inquiries are things that could turn into complaints if we don't handle them now. And then obviously complaints are things that are critical that we should be thinking about changing, and looking at the trends for across all of those as well. I think that's something simple that any organization can do and probably should do to retain their customers.
Okay, great. Thanks, Gareth. Can we move on to the next slide, please, Jeff? Right, so Bianca, you have a case study to present.
Yes, and hopefully my internet stays stable. I am in an office, you would assume it stays stable, but you know what, this is an experience, and hopefully I can deliver it perfectly for you all. So my case study is actually a client of mine, an investment bank, asked me to review their colleagues. So they call their employees colleagues. So, and you'll see that in here. To review their journey and how they are experiencing and what could we do better. That was the key message I got given to them. So we walked in the shoes of the colleagues, and we kind of created these 4 personas. These are the 4 main personas that we identified. The first one there you'll see is building A colleague. So that's a colleague that is based at that building A. So they know the building, they know where the fire exits are, they have a lot of knowledge. So their needs are very different to somebody, for instance, that is visiting. So another colleague, but who is based in a different location and isn't based at building A. So their needs is they don't know where the fire exit is, they don't have a pass, or do they have a pass? May require an induction. So their needs are very different. And then if we looked at a new starter, lack of knowledge completely, you know, do they know where to meet? Do they know how to find the building? You know, do they have a pass waiting for them? All of these small details and what their needs are very different to those that are just visiting or are based at that building. And for this client, we separated the executives, the PAs, and the traders. We don't use the terminology VIPs because everyone's a VIP, and LPs mentioned that we need to treat everyone a VIP. However, these three job functions had different needs, and their access control has different requirements than everyone else. So we felt it was really important that we put them in a separate bucket so that we could address that. So on the next slide, you will see is the journey mapping of a new starter. And you'll also see that I was a little bit creative in how I present this journey mapping. So Gareth showed you the template that's in the guide, and I took the foundation and created this to present to the client and to present to the whole FM team. So to start off on this is a new starter. They've never been here before, and you only get one first impression. So this is really, you've got to make your first impression here. So the preparation before they even arrive, you know, has the line manager sent them a welcome pack? Has the line manager or HR told them where they're meeting, their start time? The security received all their information so that we are ready with the passes and it's all coming across? So what could we do better? And that's what we kept asking ourselves at every section on this. And one of the things we identified actually was it's really hard to find the building. So what could we do? We could take a photo of the building and create a map and put that into the starter pack. So things like that, by going and asking the team, and this is where I come in, ask the team that are delivering the service, what could we do better? And you get some really simple yet innovative ideas. So we move on to the engagement. So this is where they get their first welcome, that experience of their new employer. And that's our function, that's our role, is doing that, is how we got to bring and embody our clients' values, ethos, and that culture. And we want them to feel it on day one, in that moment. So with engagement, we talked to the security team, because actually, if you're a new starter, it's not the reception team that actually engages with them, it's security. So what do we need them to have prepared? Is the pass there? We thought about tech. Is there technology waiting? Where is it waiting? Have we got that ready and set up? You know, are they aware of our employee hub, which is what my team runs and looks after? And at the employee hub, we do locker allocation. So they'll get their first locker, they will get IT accessories, everything from us, and we will help them and give them a walk around and welcome them to the building. And also the day makers are around to help with everyone's needs. So we introduce ourselves and what we're here for. Then we move on to the service delivery. So this is every day, what should they feel and what can we do to make their journey seamless? And so the line manager introducing to the team and the site, but what could the day makers, the community host do? Get to know the new starter, give them a coffee, welcome them with a coffee. And the baristas here are incredible. They do awesome artwork. So could we do one that says welcome, you know, really personalize it, take it to the next stage. And this is where you ask the team, like, what could we do better? What do they want? And so we've got an app. Do they know how to use the app? Do they know how to book a desk? And that's where the day makers and my team kind of understand, and they tell me what their challenges are. And then we say, okay, what solution can we come up to make it better? So then we move to the post engagement, and now my light's going because I haven't moved enough supposedly in this room. So we move to the post engagement, and this is all about, you know, Gareth did around feedback and understanding. And for us here, and for how can we know if we've done a great job, is do we know their name? Do they know who we are and what we do and how we can support them? You know, do they know that they can come to us for help on whatever their question is? Our whole function is around giving time back to the colleagues, make it enjoyable and making it safe. And my light's back. And sorry, I'm really commentary, aren't I? And then do they know our names? Do they know what the day makers do? And did we do an amazing job? And we've received some great emails. We use that as feedback. We also look at the tickets and stuff, how we're reducing and increasing, and just creating that retention rate, helping HR retain amazing talent within the building. So we honestly constantly think, what could we do better? And we ask everyone that's a part of that journey, from engineers to security, to the catering team, to the cleaners, everyone, and to my day maker team, what could we do better? And we're always asking that question to move and keep progressing, because I want my client to know that they're getting the best experience and we're creating the best energy. So I hope this brings it a bit to life, and also a different way of showing journey mapping, and just get some juice flowing. Be creative, think out the box, because that is what customer experience is all about at the end of the day.
That's great. Thanks very much, Bianca. It's interesting to see the different perspective and the different presentation. As you quite rightly say, we're really interested in getting people to think about the important aspects of from the customer's point of view, rather than perhaps being too bogged down in the administration of trying to prepare a document or trying to do the administration element. This is really about trying to facilitate through. The guide is about trying to help people to think about things from the customer perspective, following a process to do that. If you can move on to the next slide, please, Jeff. And we have poll number 3. So from today's webinar, what would you like to take away and use going forward? By the way, these might not be the only 4 that you might take away. There might be others as well. So anyone or all 4? What would you like to take away and use?
Also use the Q&A. Use the Q&A.
Yes.
Tell us if there's something else, right?
Absolutely. Is there something else that you think we haven't got in there? Tell us we've missed it. How are we getting on with the poll?
Whoop, whoop. Ooh.
Oh, well, you guys, we were completely transparent. You saw through our ruse, didn't you? Which was that we would like you to choose all the above, but we wanted to see the emphasis. So it's really good to see that having a process is picked up with some of you, actually understanding the personas. Because of the fact that there's just a small number there, I suspect that doesn't mean that people don't appreciate that the personas is something that people can really think through in detail, because I think it's one of the things that I hear a lot is that everybody should be treated the same. And what we're advocating is you must understand that people are not all the same. You're only delivering one service, and you may be delivering a consistent service, but you still need to think about the fact that people have different needs. Identifying moments of truth and the phases of the customer journey, I hope very much, again, that you find that those are useful, but it is great to see that there's such a large number of people that are seeing all of the above. And I look forward to seeing if there are any questions or points from anyone in relation to other things that we should have said. So if we move on, then I've got to do a little summary in here. Can I just check with Gareth? Sorry, from Jeff. Before I do a summary, are there any key things that you'd like to add in that we haven't picked up so far, Jeff?
Thank you, Gordon. I think we're doing good. We've got time for some Q&A now, and so just bear with me 1 second. Let's have a look at what we've got. So firstly, thank you everyone for the questions that you've put through for our panel. I will pick out and place those to the individuals, if I may. So first of all, Gareth, can I pose a question to you, please?
Sure can.
What trends do you think we will see in customer experience and customer journey mapping, and how do you think the current events, pandemic, Ukraine, will affect it?
Yes, I see that question there from Julie. Julie's one of our team members as well. Nice to see you, Julie. Thanks for dropping by. So I think the kind of trends that we should perhaps expect to see is a growth still in digital. So I know digital's been around for some time already, but I feel like this is going to kind of continue to grow, and particularly around automation. I think automation's great, but I do think customers will kind of expect a balance with a good human interaction as well. So it's about trying to find that balance. Automation should be kept for certain elements, but we mustn't forget that human element as well. So things like we've been seeing sort of more recently with individuals perhaps trying to leave European countries like Ukraine and get over to the UK. You know, how are we facilitating that, and what automation can we do to kind of improve that experience and make it more easier for the individual? So that's where I think automation kind of is important, but equally important is still having that human element, that human touch, that connection there. They're quite critical. So I think we're going to see those moving forward. I think also a new buzz phrase that I'm hearing now is hyper personalization experiences. So it's kind of like taking the experience to your personalization experiences is something that we've been used to for some time, but sort of elevating that and it becoming a hyper personalized experience, making it much more about the individual. And again, with the support of digital opportunities with AI and things like that, it's about making those experiences as hyper personalized as possible. But critical and underlying all of that is protecting the data. Consumers, customers, individuals, all of us are becoming much more aware of how important our data is and how valuable it is. And I feel that underpins everything that we do as we move forward in customer experience. And I think those are the kind of trends that we're going to see moving forward. But definitely the growth in digital is I believe is going to be something that we'll see.
Thank you, Gareth.
Could I make a contribution as well there, Jeff?
Please do.
Sure. I think another trend is that I think that there's been a shift away from, let's say, 20 to 30 years ago, where certainly contractor organizations and big corporates trying to make things more efficient were trying to channel down customers into single points of contact, trying to make things efficient for them. And I think that in the last decade, and certainly more in the last 5 years, there's more about touch points. So solving the problem for the customer as and when you interact with the service. So whether it's talking to members of staff, whether it's by voice, whether it's digital, trying to make sure that you are thinking about things from the customer perspective and helping the customer find a solution at the point when they touch the service, and not always saying you're going to have to ring the help desk or go and see somebody else, or it's not my job. So all this is about helping the customer get the best result, thinking about life from the customer perspective.
Thank you, Gordon. LP, if I can draw you into the Q&A, please. Martin's posed a question for us, and I think this is right up your street. Martin asks, we're on the start of this journey within our organisation. How do we best approach the transition of our workforce's mindsets who haven't had to always think in the customer's shoes?
Well, as I mentioned earlier on, it's something that we, it's through training and development and understanding what customer service means and what moment of truth means. I mean, I think my colleagues touched on earlier on through their presentation. It's identifying what will help the clients and the customers to have a great journey, and so it's question of understanding what customers is, who are they, what their expectation. The training also needs to be developed among the team, and talking about this moment of truth. What are they? What will take, the customer, I think, is the interaction. The definition of moment of truth is the interaction with your client. So there's a technology aspect of it, as we've just discussed. But if we focus on the human aspect of this moment of truth, that really helped the team, and every member of the team has a critical role to play with this moment of truth. You may as well be front of house, back of house, anybody, cleaners, maintenance, they all have a part to play. So for someone who hasn't have a great experience of customer service, just let go through that journey, just train them, develop them, and explain to them what it is and how we need to achieve it. But first of all, we need to understand the basic of it, which I've just explained a moment or two, is what as a person, what as an individual, what as a receptionist or a security person or for cleaners, what will tick your box? What is the service? I mean, every one of us knows what we want when we go somewhere, to a restaurant on holidays or anywhere. We know what we want as a to have a great experience, but we need to reproduce this on our daily jobs, and so it's a natural. We need to train the team, lead them towards what they like themselves and how to reproduce that to the client, the like, the dislike, as I mentioned earlier on, and also learning from outside, from the 5 stars industry, from all these great industries. I know in preparation of this webinar, we talk about the Disney, Walt Disney sort of training that they have in place, which is one of the best. And then you learn from this organization, you train your teams with this organization, you take them outside of the business, you go and see what's happening outside of, in the rest of the world. And I've personally experienced it myself, and this is how I've learned. And I looked and I said, okay, well, that's quite interesting. And then we then trying to reproduce this with our business. Well, I mean, we're not all Goldman Sachs and Credit Suisse. However, we can a great service with whatever facilities we're working on, whether small or large building, and it has to be natural. We need to feel the need of pleasing people and giving that experience. I mean, there is no magic trick as to how you will become a good customer person or deliver customer service. You just need to be natural, learn about it, and trying to push yourself on a daily basis to give that service.
Thank you, LP. Fantastic as always. And Bianca, we've had quite a few questions coming through. I haven't unfortunately got time to answer all of them today, but we will, to those who've asked questions, keep a record of those and hopefully come back to you afterwards. But Bianca, just for the last sort of very quick answer, if you may, what do you think the future looks like? Lynn has asked, what's huge changes over the last couple of years. Gareth's touched on them already. What do you see coming in the future for our clients and for customer service?
Yeah, thanks, Lynn. My right hand, actually. So you chose my right hand on Verb's question, and she didn't even tune me up for this.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Lynn. But I think for me, the future is there's no longer that we're just focusing on what we all call the client or the external guest. Now we are looking at different stakeholders. It's moved away from just those clients that that were paying us to deliver a service. We're now looking at all the stakeholders, because actually they all have an important role to play. I think that's been a biggest change in the customer care industry. And it's also about your colleagues, your employees, because if you have happy employees, means you'll have happy clients, right? We've all heard that famous saying, but I don't think we've ever really used it or properly actually dived into their experience. And now we're going, actually, we need to treat them just as important as a client, because they're all important, because they all play a role in the ecosystem of us in this work and in customer care and delivering the best. So I think that's a big change that we're seeing. And the future, I would say, is keep innovating, don't stand still. And I think that's one lesson I would say to anything. When you think you've reached the gold standard, know something else is about to come, and you got to keep moving to the next. So don't stay still. That's the future. It's just got to keep going and keep growing. And just on Martin's question and what LP was saying, if you're new in this whole experience, get a quick win. Get a team to see a quick win, and they'll be like, oh, I want more of that feeling. And when you got that feeling, you want to keep going. And that is how you change the mindsets and you become a customer focused, client focused, employee focused, whoever you're focusing on. And that's where you start changing mindsets and you just start creating this most exceptional experience out there.
What a way to finish the Q&A, Bianca. Thank you so much. And well, we need to draw to a close, unfortunately. It would be wonderful to carry on the conversation further, but the task now lies with me in just wrapping things up through to the end. So can I just say thank you for our panelists and for Gordon for facilitating that. And of course, most importantly, thank you, the audience, for joining us today. Please stay online for the mini survey, which is going to come your way at the end of the webinar. Before we close, I'd like to pass on our thanks to colleagues across the wider working group for their support, in particular, and Gareth mentioned Julie Hume, who made a terrific, significant contribution to our guide, along with others, including Jamie MacDonald and David Carey, Maud Santa Maria, and Peter Brogan. Our group thanks to the IWFM team for enabling today's webinar and the guide production, in particular, Lucy Gator for her support behind the scenes today. You can download the guidance note via the IWFM website using the link that's on the screen now, and Lucy popped it in the chat earlier for you as well. If you're enthusiastic about customer service and customer experience, and hopefully you've got that we are today, and that you're interested in finding out more about our working group, then please get in touch through IWFM. Our chairperson, Jamie MacDonald, will be delighted to speak with you to fill you in on our exciting plans for this year and beyond. And Jamie will also give you access to our group LinkedIn page, which is packed with interest and features. Before our final messages, and on behalf of our group, I would like to mention our collective support for the people of Ukraine and all those people in neighbouring countries throughout Europe who are supporting the refugees. You are all in our thoughts. So, for IWF members who are recording their CPD, the number is now on the screen, 861-8334. Please jot that down. And finally, we've got some special notices on behalf of IWFM. Firstly, the 2022 conference on the 8th of June, Agents of Change. Please go to IWFM website for details and registration. And secondly, I am compelled to make special mention of the IWFM Impact Awards, with a rapidly approaching closing date of the 1st of April, and in particular the Excellence in Customer Experience Award. Our group is really excited that this award category is back for 2022, and the opportunity to celebrate all those remarkable stories of customer service and experience across all sectors of workplace and facilities management. Your feedback is very important to us, so please sit tight at the end and take a little time to complete the attendee survey which will follow. A recording of this webinar will be available via IWFM's website shortly, and please use the link below. And finally, thank you once again to all our attendees today for your interest and your questions. Stay safe and have a wonderful afternoon from all of us on the group. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Goodbye, everyone. Take care.